welcome to Dirtbike's off-road video series. Today we've got the 2023 KTM 250 XCF. This is one of almost a dozen redesigned bikes in the KTM fleet for 2023. It all started with last year's factory editions. Those bikes were technically 2022 models, but they were the advanced scouts for all the new models that would come later. We can't imagine how much work went into this combined project in Austria. Of all the new bikes, the 2023 250 XCF is among the most heavily redesigned. It got the new frame as well as a new motor and a new gearbox. Along with the new frame comes new rear suspension and new bodywork. The fork is still the Xact air fork with minimal changes. Be forewarned that there aren't many of your extra parts from 2022 that will fit, not your steering damper and not even your extra wheels. The KTM 250 XCF is the off-road version of the 250 SXF motocross bike. It has softer suspension, an 18-inch rear wheel, a kickstand, handguards, a skid plate, and most importantly, a 6-speed gearbox. For 2023, all the gear ratios, including the primary and final ratios, have been altered, with the bottom line of a wider spread. One of the most interesting roles for the 250 XCF is that it's a 4-stroke race bike that, in most off-road racing organizations, goes head-to-head with 2 strokes of the same displacement. This provides endless debate for the 2-stroke purists versus the 4-stroke racers. We can't put an end to that debate right here, but there are some fundamentals that can't be denied. First, the 250 XCF has a wider power band than any 2-stroke of the same displacement. It revs to well over 13,000 RPM, whereas the 2-stroke 250 goes to about 9,000. Second, the 250 XCF makes less peak power, although it's closer this year than ever before. The new motor makes around 45 horsepower, which is maybe 1 horse more than last year. A KTM 250 SX 2-stroke, on the other hand, makes about 48 horsepower. The weight issue is a wash these days. On our scale, the 2023 250 XCF is 231 pounds without fuel. It gained a few pounds with the new frame this year. Last year's 250 XC 2-stroke was 226 pounds. The 23 model isn't out yet, but we expect it to gain some weight because it too has the new heavier frame. Despite being newly redesigned, the bike still has some of the same characteristics as before. It's a screamer. You have to learn to give it full throttle. It doesn't like half-hearted efforts. That makes the bike feel a little sleepy to most riders. If a rider says the 250 XCF doesn't feel very fast, it's usually because he isn't giving it full throttle. That's typical of riders who are used to 2 strokes and 450s. Even at full throttle, the power delivery of the 250 XCF is easy to control, simply because it revs and revs. There's no real hit to throw you off your game. The handlebar has new, more compact electronic controls this year. On the left, the new multi-switch offers 2 maps, traction control, and quick shift, which is a feature that makes full throttle upshifts a little smoother by momentarily interrupting the ignition. We like it, especially on the 250 where full power upshifts are normal business. Some riders don't, which is fine because they can disable it with the press of a button. As far as the 2 maps go, they are essentially the same as those of the motocross model. The more aggressive map makes the motor peak later and perhaps go a little longer. We would love to see some more off-road specific maps for the XC models. KTM is still testing a Bluetooth feature that allows riders to alter the power band through a smartphone, similar to what Yamaha has. But right now there's a shortage of microchips, so that feature has been on hold. Most riders will notice right away that the new chassis is a little stiffer. That's a benefit in sand and at high speed, but it puts more of the burden for comfort on suspension and reveals shortcomings with the WP air fork. That fork still handles all the big landings and impacts as well as ever, but small chop can provide a harsh feel. This isn't as evident with the 250 XCF as it is with motocross models, simply because the suspension can be a little softer in its off-road role. You have to keep in mind that this bike is a racer first and a trail bike second. From the rider's perspective, there's very little difference between the XCF and the SXF motocross bike. In fact, we know a number of racers who prefer the XC over the SX, even on the track. The 6-speed gearbox makes it a little more versatile, and you absolutely don't notice the larger fuel capacity. The suspension at both ends has enough range of adjustment to go from motocross to off-road with just a few quick changes. We're continuing to test the KTM 250 XCF, and we'll come up with some more settings. You can check back at dirtbikemagazine.com or just wait for a test which will appear on the newsstand in the December 2022 print edition of Dirtbike. As always, check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and thanks for watching.